I think what we've shown from the start of the season and really the work we've been doing, the last 2 days is just another example of how organized we are, how we don't mind being at the forefront. And I think it shows that when women are the ones leading, good things can happen. And again, I think the last 2 days was just another example of that. It's probably a combination of things. It's tough to pinpoint. I think our league is just probably like more legitimate now. And I think that helps. I think the men in the NBA have grown up with our league a little bit. The NBA is a young league. And so a lot of them, when the WNBA was starting and probably 5, 6, 7, 10 years in, they grew up with it. So I think the WNBA is just, it's more of a natural partnership. And that leads me to maybe what the third thing is. And that's a lot of these guys and a lot of the women in our league, they've gone to All-American camps, or not camps, they've gone to All-American games together. They've maybe played in college together. There's just this connection. And it extends into the professional ranks. I think that's a part of it. I think we just know them and they know us, and it's genuine friendships, or it's, we get to know people at the Olympics, or, you could pick from the laundry list of ways in which we interact. And I think that's led to us wanting to unify. It's also common ground, right? Like the things we're talking about, there's like a big time common ground there, and we're kind of in the same world. So that's also a part of it. I think the thing I'll remember is just dealing with something in real time, and just the starting point and the ending point, and I think, again, what it comes down to is just how organized we are, how thoughtful I think we are. The things that'll jump out to me are the fact that it was really one team, DC, that was set on not playing. And it wasn't a fight. It was conversation, and it was hearing people out, and it was getting to a place where we essentially moved with them. And then once that happened and the whole league was on board, when everybody returned, we had a vigil. And I think that'll also stand out for me. Just a moment where we all got to come together and just be people. It had nothing to do with us being basketball players, and just kind of take that moment. It's very rare for all of us to be in the same place. So that was just a very touching moment. And that was followed by a players only meeting, which never happens to have everybody in the same room. So there was just all these things that really would never happen in a good way unless we were in this bubble. I think it's because we didn't really view it as a splinter. I don't think it was. I think it was, a team feeling extremely passionate about making this statement. And again, once the conversations got going, it became really evident. A few things became really evident. One was that this was really traumatizing for a lot of players, having to, I would actually just say the last, with all the social unrest, in the last, I don't even know what month it is, to be honest. So let's call it 4 or 5 months. I think it brings up a lot, and it's emotionally, it's a huge weight. And I think once people started talking about it, it was like, yeah, I don't think we can play. So there was a lot happening, but again, I don't view it as a splinter. I view it more as like, this is how they felt. We had conversations. I think when we were all in the same room, it was similar. Everybody was just hearing each other out. But the one thing that really stuck out was, this was why we came here. Players knew what they were essentially signing up for. We wanted to play this season to bring awareness, to say her name. And this moment in time doesn't change that. It just was kind of, obviously when someone gets shot 7 times in the back, it puts it in your face a little bit more than maybe it was, 5, 6, 7 days ago. And so it causes, reaction. But we're still here for that reason. That's why we came here. So once, again, conversations started to happen, we started to kind of, things started to settle down a little bit amongst us. I think that came to light again. This is why we're here. We came to play, because when we play, that's when our voices can be heard. That's where our impact is. And I think if you asked any player about that part, we would all answer very similarly, which is like, it's exhausting. It's really hard. There's a lot of time that goes into it, a lot of energy that goes into it. And when you're simultaneously trying to play the game of basketball at a high level, it's really taxing. For me personally, and I kind of knew this about myself, I thrive in organization. Like I feel very comfortable in like trying to put plans together. I'm like an action person in that way. So for me personally, I feel comfortable in that role. And I think the beauty of it is, if you read the ESPN article today that Ramona wrote, it's true. At one point, Leja, we were kind of discussing a lot of the Warnock, or I guess it was more about, yeah, we'll just call it the Warnock. We were kind of discussing the Warnock strategy. And, I was feeling really passionate about what we needed to do. And she basically said, she was like, well, you need to take this on because this is too much for us right now. And I think as a white player, that's really where I found my allyship to be like the strongest. I can kind of take that off of my counterpart's plate and dive into the organizing of it, because it does take so much energy. And I think for a lot of the Black players, their energy is being expended in other ways. And that's like the world we live in, sadly. So that's kind of how I see it for, I guess, me personally. But overall, I mean, when you're an organizer, I mean, this is like, we talk about this, like some people do this as their jobs. That's how hard of a job it is, right? Like people have to dedicate their lives to it. So when you're doing two jobs, so to speak, it can be really taxing. And I think that's where some of us, that's what we have found in this process. Yeah. I mean, I think the proof's in the pudding on that one, right? Like the story kind of tells itself. What had happened in 2016, we had to go through a process where the league fought us a little bit on wearing the t-shirts, finally came around. I think what it really says is kind of more so where our society is now from 2016 to now. Obviously, something I'm starting to see is like, I had a front row seat with Megan and kneeling and going through that process and how people received her in 2016 versus now. I mean, 4 years later, everybody's kneeling. So I think it's similar in that when society dictates some of that, leagues kind of follow suit. And right now, it's kind of, and it's not to take anything away from the support that our commissioner has given us. It's been tremendous. And it's been, to be honest, before we even got here, when we even discussed having a bubble, she was on board right away. I think from an ownership and a coaching standpoint, our league is different in that way because generally speaking, and I can only speak from the Seattle Storm's perspective, we always have our ownership's support, always. They're the ones encouraging us to be proactive. Same with our coaching, always have their support. So I think our league is different in that way. I don't know that clearly every other league is not like that. So we're lucky in that regard. But yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with just like how society is, again, just receiving these actions in the moment. It's considered okay now to kneel. It's weird if you don't, which kind of obviously puts us into a whole other question. But, I think it's a no-brainer to support this at the moment. See, my closest friend in the league is Diana. So she's probably the one that I'm having most conversations with. And I think we both feel the same. We're in an interesting position because I think we're two, whether it's, two of the more popular players or maybe just two of the older players so people know our name. We have a weight to our voice. And simultaneously, I think it's time in this particular moment and beyond, to be honest, where we need to put our Black players, we need their voices to be heard, So it's kind of for us having that balance, like in a players meeting. It's not our time to talk. It's not our time to talk. And I think that's another, to be honest, shutting up is another way of showing, that you're there to support. That's the truth of it. I think a lot of my other conversations have actually just been with my white friends, not necessarily people in the WNBA. And those are different conversations, obviously. But yeah, as it pertains to me and Dee, that's definitely something we've talked about. When to, show the support, when to kind of help in the organization or being a leader in that regard, but also when to, take that step to the side. When you go through, like the thing I've learned about whether it's CBA negotiations, negotiating coming to this bubble, organizing a large group of people is hard, but you have to make sure everybody has a voice. You have to make sure everybody, their opinion is heard. So of course we kind of went through, the checklist. I don't even know what to call it. We went through like the options and talked about things. But that was never in serious contention. That was never something that was really on the table. I think again, everybody knew what they were signing up for when they came here and why we were coming. And I don't think this moment changes that. If anything, it just, I think, motivates us even more. It's great. I mean, you know, when you're in these moments, the hardest part is to find those actionable items that can happen right away. That's really difficult. So to actually have something come out of this strike or whatever we're calling it, I think is tremendous. You know, for us, the way I see it, it's like we actually, in some ways, at the start of our season, right away, we started a social justice council. You know, we've had these initiatives in place trying to get the message out. And so us standing, you know, in solidarity with the guys and taking these games off, striking, you know, I think Nneka put it best. It's more so days of action. That was us supporting them because, you know, the NBA, because of what the NBA is, they have a larger reach. They can do something like demand their owners to, you know, to open up their arenas for voting. And I think that's just a way of everybody doing their part. And for us in this moment, it was great on that first day to stand with them and not play, to try to get these things done. And I think when other leagues started to follow suit, it just makes that message for them. It makes their leverage that much larger for them to go to their owners or go to whoever and try to get what they need, or what they want done. So I thought that was amazing. And again, I think it comes back to us being able to be partners in this, and continue to move it forward. Oh, in the players only meeting, or just, so like, I don't know if it happened in that meeting exactly, but right away we wanted to make sure, and it's been something we've talked about, like we need to get every single person in this league registered who is eligible, to your point. So immediately we sent out links in, like, I mean, guys, the group chats we've got going, so many group chats, and it really is the best way. So immediately we sent out links. We sent out those scan codes where literally all you have to do is scan it, and it tells you your registration status. There's another one you scan, you fill it out, you quickly get registered. It's that simple. So yeah, we wanted our league first and foremost to be, you know, you got to be examples. If you got to practice what you preach, I guess is the easiest way to say it. So yeah, that definitely happened. No, that's not something we've talked about like as a larger group. I think it's definitely something that we're trying to educate ourselves on. And that's really been the beauty of all of this, is that whatever you guys have seen us come out with, you know, whatever we're talking about, whatever, you know, whichever woman we're honoring, there's been a lead up of education to that point. And so that's where we are now. I think we are in that moment where we want to, in terms of, you know, obviously telling people to get out to vote, but then it's like, what do you want to vote for? What do you want to support? What kind of candidate? So we are in that process, not just the Voting Rights Act, but other ones as well, where we're kind of educating ourselves and seeing where we want to, you know, come together, align, and push it forward.